So once you have your cut lines drawn on your 2x12 for your stringer, the next step, of course, is to get those cut out. And it's pretty straightforward, but we're going to go over how to cut them so that the lines are straight, so you don't overcut anything and don't create any weak points, and you can just keep things uniform. We're going to use a circular saw or track saw, and then either a jigsaw or a hand saw work for some of the finer cuts that we're going to be making. So we're going to use a circular saw to make these longer cuts here, but when we cut down this line, we're going to make sure that we stop at the end of the cut line. If we were to keep going until the saw blade is cut all the way through the bottom side at the end of that line, it would be cut further than needed. So we're going to stop right here, and there will be a little bit of left that the saw didn't cut through, but we're going to use the jigsaw or a hand saw to cut through to get a vertical line where it will be cut all the way through right there. We want to make sure to cut on this side of the line because this is this stringer here, and this is our scrap piece. So we want to cut so that there's basically half of this line left. We want to cut right through that. You don't have to be that precise, but the point is you don't want to cut on that side of the line. So we cut here, and we've stopped right at that line. If you look at the back, those lines didn't end up meeting because of the way a circular saw works. It didn't cut all the way through the underside. So one way we can do this is just by finishing off the cut, or you can also do the same with the jigsaw. Now we have our first cut here, and this corner here is nice and clean, and the reason we didn't want to cut further with the circular saw was because that takes away the strength of this section of treated material. So we have this situated with our block underneath, so we can cut this top cut here and this cut that goes against the side of the deck framing. And these cuts, since we're not using this whole piece here, you can cut as far through that as you want, doesn't matter, that's going to be scrap. So this kind of saw I'm using has a blade that I can actually push out into the workpiece. You don't need to have this, but it is nice so you can get your blade lined up before you start cutting, rather than having to go all the way from the end and cutting straight from the end. So I can just line this up and push it down into the wood. This is used with a track saw, but you may be able to find circular saws that work the same way. If you don't have a circular saw or aren't good with using one, you can cut these by hand or with a jigsaw, but it's harder to get a flat, even cut for the deck board treads to rest on. If that's uneven, there's potential for it to squeak or for the boards to not sit flat, and just cutting with a circular saw or something that can stay in a straight line is a better way of making sure that everything is cut right and installs well. Treated wood stays straight and is less likely to crack if you're working with it when it's wet. So if you can install it when everything's wet, then it's better than letting it dry out and possibly warp. The other thing you have to look out for with dried out wood is for cracks. If you end up with cracks in your stringer, you may end up with splitting that can make these break off. Not so great, especially if you have a whole bunch of treads on already. Work on it when it's wet, get everything cut out as soon as possible and installed with locking and everything, and as it dries out it will stay in place, won't warp, shouldn't crack on you in a way where it's going to screw up your installation or split off or anything.